Hello everyone, you might notice I sound a bit congested and I also might look a bit ill, and you're not wrong if you've noticed that, and it's because I am recovering from COVID. I have had a few tough days. I think I'm now coming out of the other side of that. I played recently a game and I wanted to show you. I think the game was an interesting one. I am playing someone that is about 60 points higher rated than me. And the positive thing is that I managed to get into a very good position from the opening and to the middle game, and I was obviously in a winning position. But the other, more negative side of this game is that I managed to throw it away, and I managed to throw the game away because of two reasons. The first reason was a not taking into account piece activity as much as I should have. And that was the main element, I believe, that made me throw this game away. The second one is about pawn structure and how I didn't pay enough attention when there was a situation where the pawn structure was going to change, and I didn't analyze and calculate whether that was going to be beneficial for me or for my opponent. So as a disclaimer, this game is obviously between me, which I'm a 1400, and my opponent, which is a 1500s. And I don't think it was a very particularly good game for either of us. In fact, if you review this with an engine, you can see that I am between 70 to 75% accuracy. So there is a few inaccuracies and mistakes, but I'm actually not going to highlight all of them in this game. The reason for that is you can get that easily if you do a game review. I'm going to focus more in something I'm trying to improve, and it's more about the strategic mistakes and the strategic considerations that I am missing and that I want to learn, rather than just go, I missed this tactic or I mistaken in here. It's more about the strategy misses that has taken place in this game. So yes, without further ado, let's get cracking. So there you go. So I am at this point I was 1461. I'm slightly higher now, but I was playing again at 1523, and so we started here. I'm starting with the Scandinavian defense, which is a typical opening I play as black. Now in here I already know this is a mistake, and the reason for that is this is going to resemble this structure a French defense, but in the French defense the bishop is locked into in here, whereas in this position I actually can get the bishop out, and then before I kind of give way to my dark bishop, and so it's a great position for me because then I get my light square bishop. It gets a lot of activity. So yeah, a mistake I know from his side. I thought in here what he wanted to do is to push the pawn to f4 before developing the knight to f3, which I thought it was a decent move. And then I, as I said, push e6 to free the path for my dark square bishop. He goes again and do what I thought he was going to do. In here, actually, instead of developing the bishop, I want to put some pressure onto a potential move, because I know it's an idea in these positions, which is push to d4 to have for white to have a super solid center, but I want to kind of contest that a little bit by just putting pressure on that square. He goes and developed the light square bishop, which I thought it was a good move, because as far as I know from this type of positions, many people will use this move to do a check, which then forced me to block with the knight. But then afterwards I can start pushing back the bishop, and what happens in this type of position is that they usually end up exchanging the light square bishop for my knight, and actually the light square bishop is the good bishop for them. So so I think it's beneficial for me to exchange my knight, and also just they will lose the opportunity to have two bishops in the game. So I thought it was a good move that he developed more quietly into e2. I developed my knight, keeping the an eye on this square, which is I know that there are some ideas in this type of positions. He throws c3 with the idea of preparing d4, but the kind of the other side of this is he's blocking the natural square for the knight. Although if he pushes this pawn, then he can develop the knight in the future. then I bring my queen. Again, kind of all the pieces are looking to this, but actually the queen is not so much about that. It's also the fact that it's looking at b2. So he is going to develop the, at some point the dark bishop. Then this is going to be left undefended. And I also kind of just want to generate a bit of piece activity. And so he castles. And so in here, this is the first mistake, that positional mistake that I make. And so I throw d4. And so this is what I was saying at the beginning. And having considered in here, as much as I should have, that this is going to provoke a change in pawn structure, most likely. And that I haven't calculated that properly. Because in here, if he takes, I take, he take with the knight, and then I take back. Actually, let's play it in here. Din. And then he pushes this pawn. Actually, I end that with yes, a pawn in the middle, which is, you can argue has quite nice, looking at two squares that are quite critical for my opponent. The problem is this can become actually quite weak, because it's only kind of defended now with the queen, and I can bring my bishop later on, but it's not going to be defended by a pawn, so it can become a target later on. So yeah, I think on hindsight I should have considered, and in the future I want to consider more of those, change in pawn structure more than more than I have to in here. So I think in hindsight that was a mistake. That was a big mistake by him that I means that I can actually push this pawn and trap the bishop, something that I didn't see in the game. Again, it's not my best game, so I was probably playing when I was here, so I didn't see all the moves. Instead, what I do is push the pawn to f6. The idea in here is that if he takes, I develop with a tempo my knight, but if he doesn't take, then I can take, and if he takes back with the pawn, then that is a weakness for him that I can try to explode in the next few moves. What he does into here is move the knight, and this actually I don't quite like, because I like trying to keep both of my bishops, especially my light bishop, as we discussed earlier. It's quite an active piece, so I don't want to really lose it. But at the same time, I thought, if I push it back to g6 and he takes, then I take back with the h pawn, and which is what happened. And actually, my rook is now very active. It owns the h file and is looking into h2, which it can become a target to attack my opponent, since he has castle on that side of the board. So in here, he pushes d3, and I castle, just trying to get a bit more safety before I build an attack on his side. He takes, which I also think it was a mistake when I was kind of going through the game. And in here, so I was thinking I could develop my knight with a tempo. Now the problem is, now these three pawns will become very weak, and so I didn't think one tempo really was worth three weak pawns. So I actually decided to instead fix my structure and not develop the knight just yet. Now in here comes another mistake that I made, another positional mistake. I haven't been so negative about this move from my end as much, because I was doing the right thing in here, which is, okay, see a move from my opponent, try to anticipate what he's trying to do. And obviously I can see that he's preparing b4 to start an attack on where I've castle, and so I thought a good move was to move to a5. Now this is really weakening the side of the board where I've castle, and in hindsight I should not have done that. In fact, that pawn end up dropping at a later stage, because really if I ignore it, it's fine. So he can go and and throw this, and then I take, and actually if he takes back, yes, the rook is looking at a7, but then I can even develop my bishop into here, so it wasn't too bad. So in hindsight, I just need to be more careful when I push my the pawns in front of push the pawns where my king has castle. So yeah, that's another mistake I made in here. Then he moves the bishop to f3. I think the idea is try to remove one of the defender of this pawn. But at this point, there is not major kind of risk if he takes that knight. I go ahead and develop the bishop, noticing that this pawn in here is only defended by his bishop. So yeah, develop that. He brings the queen there. Obviously, I can see he's trying to build an attack on the on my king side. Sorry, in the queen side, but as well where I've castled. But again, I don't see a major attack just yet. What I see though is if he takes in here, then if I take with the queen, this drops. So what I decide to do next is I'll bring my knight, and so here he pushed the knight forward to d2, which is a mistake I did realize, because I thought, okay, that's a free pawn, I'll take it. Then he takes with the bishop, and I think this is also another mistake that he made, because if you think into here, what he's doing is, at the end of the day, he's exchanging his very good light bishop, which I don't have a light bishop, so he's a clear advantage. For my knight, that is the least active piece, because this is what's going to happen. So he's going to take into here, and I'm going to capture back, and so he just the exchange is not favoring him, I don't think. On top of that, I saw an in-between move, so he goes and do the in-between move. I take that pawn that I realized was free, so I take it. I force his king to go into a very awkward position, and I take back with the knight. Now in here is where I think, okay, I'm in a very good position. I'm very confident. I'm in a better position than my opponent. But now this is where the concept of piece activity comes. So if you look at my pieces, my bishop is lovely and very, very active. This rook is not looking at something extremely valuable just yet, but it's it's owning the 8th file. This rook into here is it's not the most active, but it will become active if I play correctly, which is just pushing maybe at some point this pawn until I open one of these lines and the rook comes to one of these files. This knight in here is perfectly valid, being a defender. Now the only piece that I think is in the very wrong side of the board is the queen. The queen is being used as a pawn. So yeah, I'm using it as a big pawn, which is not the right thing. The queen should be attacking the king, and that is the concept I did not see early enough. I realized later on, and maybe it was too late. But yeah, this is where the piece activity side of things comes into place, and I did not analyze that queen should not have been there. And a simple move such as moving it to c7 to then moving it to g3 would have been absolutely perfect. But yeah, my opponent goes and moves the knight, putting pressure onto a5, and I go and push pawns. At this point, again, I didn't get the memo of my queen not being on the right side of the board, so I decide to push pawns. He goes and builds more pressure towards this pawn, and again, just for some reason decide to keep pushing pawns. He goes and take with the bishop, take with my knight, take with the knight. Here I missed just a simple move, which I realized, and the mistake in here is probably just I took 6 seconds having 5 minutes. I should have just a little bit more of a look, because literally I played the move and then I realized that was a mistake, because I just could have taken this pawn into here, do check, and he would have been in massive trouble. Instead I didn't realize, and they keep pushing the pawns, which okay, I'm attacking this pawn, is not too bad. He goes and move b4, obviously just throwing everything at me, trying to open lines where my king is. Now I move the queen, which is not a bad move, maybe a bit too late, but it's not a bad move, because I'm threatening checking there. He goes and move. Now this is another positional mistake. So I am obviously trying to kick away the knight, but by doing that, when the knight moves, then I've actually opened 2 lines for checks from the queen, so I'm exposing my king unnecessarily, because I could just left the knight in there. So the knight goes back, but again, at any point he can give me checks into here and create an attack. So I don't think that was great, and this is one of the, if not the biggest positional mistake I've done in this game. The reason for that is very simple. So I don't want to block the position in here. I want to open the position because I want to give, going back to the concept of piece activity, I want to then bring my rook, one of these rooks, and actually have a big open file to start attacking the king. Instead, I decide to close for some reason the file and actually give some cell to the king, which is exactly not what I want to do. So I think that probably was the other part of me losing this game. Again, piece activity because I'm blocking, I'm not opening the file to give the activity to my rook. But also it's the pawn structure that I'm not considering. I'm changing the pawn structure in there, or I have the opportunity of changing the pawn structure for my benefit, and instead just keep it close. Then he goes and take, but in here I'm just in massive trouble, right? I've closed the position where the king is. My queen is not on the right side. This rook should be way more looking into here. I had opportunities of attacking the king and obviously winning, but I haven't considered those things. I get a check, move the king, check. The engine will tell you need to move in here, and it is right, but it's more about all the mistakes I've done already that led to me losing. Now he goes and take, and again, I'm already in a very lost position. He's got a pass pawn that he can push, but he can also bring the other rook into here. I mean, his attack on my king is going to be massive in a minute. Another, just to make sure the point comes across enough, I'm just making another big mistake in here by just closing. So this bishop was lovely active and actually protecting this square in here, and I decided to close it. And this is obviously another learning for me from this game. The big thing is, if it's coming to kind of closer to an end game, I'm the only one with a bishop and it's dark square. I need to put my pawns on the light squares, so then I can allow my dark square bishop to travel and get that activity that it deserves. But also, the king is in a light square. If my bishop can only attack dark squares and my pawns are in dark squares, then my possibilities of attacking this king are just, way less than it should have. I can just move my rooks, but I'm just reducing the piece activity of my the activity of my pieces, and also around the king. So yeah, this is where I lost the game, and obviously there are more moves. I didn't decide to resign just yet. And there are mistakes in here as well, but I think I lost the game already before. So yeah, I'm not gonna review this. Basically it goes a few more moves, and at some point in here I've resigned because this is just very clearly winning for him. So yeah, I think a few learnings in here that I got are more from a strategic mistake side of things rather than, I missed this tactic or I didn't get that pawn. So I hope you enjoyed this review and you also managed to learn a couple of things. So yeah, thank you for watching, and catch you soon.